What up peeps, welcome back to the channel. Today I have teamed up with LukiZ Music to bring you 6 different tips in FL Studio. We've also made a video about 6 more tips that will be on his channel, so I highly recommend go watching that if you haven't already, of course. It will be in the description of this video and also on the end screen, so when you're done watching this one, you are one click away from watching his. Alright, so for my first tip, I've loaded up a chord progression in the piano roll. And as you can hear, it's a really nice chord progression, but there is one thing that I do not like. It doesn't sound that natural. Every note is simply too perfect and they're all completely the same velocity. Of course, you could go in manually and move them all, though that would take forever. Or you could, of course, record it yourself, but if you do not own a keyboard or like, if you don't even play piano, how are you supposed to record this? But don't you worry fam, FL Studio got you. What I want you to do is head up to the top left corner of your screen, then click this little wrench tool, or you can go to the drop down, go to tools, and here we go. Now the first thing I'm gonna pull up is articulate. There it was, hard word to say I guess. Now you get a few different settings here. You have a multiply, and a variation, and a gap. So the multiply is actually just kind of the length of the presses, if you will, and the variation is basically the variation of how long they are pressed. So when you're playing the piano and you're playing chords, you might not let go of all the keys at the exact same time. That's basically the variation. How much do they vary basically? Once you've found a variation that you're satisfied with, you can go to the multiply. So just quickly to show you what the gap does, I'm gonna turn up the multiply, and as you can see, it just kind of makes a bit more space between the chords. And then just quickly, this reset button will reset the window. If you press this X, you will actually cancel what you've just made. Make sure you press accept when you're done. So now the endings have been taken care of. Now I'm gonna go to the exact same window. I'm gonna find the one called strum, or you can press Alt S. Now strum will basically take care of the beginnings of the tones, or notes, whatever. Now I actually really like this this strum tool. You can really play around and get some really cool stuff, depending on what kind of thing you're going for. Let me go over this just briefly. So we have the time, which you can see shifts. So you're not pressing all of them at once, but you're kind of, you know, you're kind of moving up the piano. Like that. You also have tension. Is it just a linear curve, or can you kind of slow down the roll? Am I explaining myself correctly here? So this is just with normal tension. And this is a lot of tension. Now what I actually like to do is alternate the direction right here. So we're going up and down and up and so on and so forth. I'm gonna turn the time down because it's a bit too much, I feel like. I'm also gonna preserve end. This is basically what we did with the articulator. I'm also gonna take a look at the velocity settings here. Right now I'm using FL keys, as you can probably hear, which does support velocity. It has 2 settings, the strength and the tension, I guess. So this is basically how much does it vary. That's a bit extreme, I guess. Again, you can play around with these settings how you want it to get some variation. I'm gonna click accept. Now I'm just gonna quickly load another piano so we can actually hear how good this could sound. You're gonna a bit longer here. There we go. This is just so much better than the piano we started with. Anyways, let's get to the next tip.
Hey guys, my name is LukiZ and my first tip is how to analyze a reference track. So a reference track is basically just a track that you really like, that you drag into your arranger, and then you use it to kind of get the feeling of where your track is going. For instance, I downloaded this from the YouTube music library. The first thing we are going to look at is the stereo field. So for this one we want a equalizer, so we kind of can control which frequencies we are looking at. We will be making a steep high pass filter and a steep low pass filter. Just like this. And then we want a stereo field monitor, and here I will be using the Ozone Imager 2. So we can kind of get the feeling of where in the stereo field the different frequencies are placed. Let's start by looking at the sub-frequencies. And as you can see, they are mostly mono, but they have a little stereo going on. Let's look at the next area from around 500 to 100 Hz. And as you can see, this area is a bit wider, which means that maybe you have some pad, you have some low-end piano, some low-end guitar, you have some basses. You need to widen them up a bit to kind of get the feeling that you are in a room with the music. The next area is from 4000 Hz to 500 Hz. And as you saw right there, we have a larger stereo image because we are going to the higher frequencies. So that is typical for a produced track, that the higher frequency, the wider stereo image. So if we look at the last very tip-top frequencies, we can see that we have a larger stereo image. It fills out more space. So the last thing I want to do with this tip is to go to a free plugin, which is called Voxengo Span. And if we just disable the EQ for a moment and look at the whole track at once, and we'll just hold it right here, we can see the frequencies and we can see the balance. So as we can see, we have a lot of bass going on and we have a lot of high end going on, and the mid is kind of flattened out, and the low mid area is kind of lowered a bit because this is where everything gets muddy if you're not paying attention. So this is how you can analyze a reference track to make your own track sound better.
So for my next tip, I have loaded up the mixer. I'm gonna show you something that way too few people actually even know about or use. So you have your mixer and you have all of your mixer tracks, you have a master, but you also have this one called current. As you can see, I'm actually able to load plugins on this one. So let's just load something on here. Oh my god, FL Studio, you're getting everywhere right now. All the windows. So the current track is actually pretty simple. It applies your effects to whatever track you have selected. As you can see on the current, I've just put on span, which is a frequency analyzing tool. And right now I've just selected the master, and as you can see, I can see everything that's going on. Now if I select just the piano, wait for the the wave to get down. As you can see, now I'm only seeing what the piano is playing. As you can see, it's down here, primarily from like 100 to 800 hertz. But if I go to the drums, we have way more bass, of course, and also a lot more treble. And actually, the drums is making pretty nice space for the chords, actually. So this works pretty well. There are so many possibilities on what you can put on this one. So just get creative, guys. Put on like loudness meters, equalizers, whatever. Anyways, let's get on with the next tip.
So the next thing I want to talk about is how you can make your stereo image bigger. So we have this pad going on right here, which is great by itself, but we can make it even better. So if we quickly add an equalizer just to, you know, EQ it just a bit. We are now ready to work with the stereo image and parallel processing. So we want to make a bus channel called pad out. Then we want to make 4 different parallel processing channels. We want to make one that goes from 20 to 120 Hz. We want to make one that goes from 120 to 500 Hz. Let's make one from around 500 to 4000 Hz. And let's just make one that is 4000 and above. Let's just call it that. So we want to take this pad and connect it to these 4 and remove it from the master. So we want to add the Maximus plugin right here. And then we need to control which frequency areas we are looking at. if we go into the bands, then we have the lows from 20, and then we set 120. Then we want to mute the mids and the high frequencies. And the way that we can listen to them is by taking these 4 channels and route them to this bus channel only. So the next thing I want to do is to add this maximum plugin by dragging it onto the next channel right here. And let's just solo this one instead. And the way that we do this is to mute the low and turn on the mids. And as you can see, we are already at 120 Hz and we want to go to 500. Then we want to take the Maximus from 120 to 500 and copy it to the 500 to 4000 and do the exact same thing. We want to take and copy the value from the high, copy and paste it into the low. And then we want to add the high to around 4000 Hz, just like that. And then we can take the Maximus plugins from the upper mids and add to the high frequencies. And then we simply just mute the mids and turn on the high frequencies. And if we turn all of these on, we have the pad. So what we want to do now is to adjust the stereo image. For instance, if we have the low frequencies only, we want to make them narrow. The same goes for the mids. We want them to be a bit narrow maybe. Then we have the upper mids. I think they should be a bit wider actually. And then of course the high frequencies should just be more wide. And together it sounds just like this. And that was my tip on how you can control the stereo image by using parallel processing and Maximus.
Alright, so for my last tip, I'm going to show you a pretty cool way that you can manipulate your drums to get a slightly different sound, a slightly different vibe, I guess. I suppose you could use it on other things than drums, but I'm just going to use it on this drum loop that I've loaded. So I have a drum bus. Well, it's basically just one track, but you get the idea. I'm going to load up Patcher, of course. So the first thing I'm going to do is load 2 equalizers. So here are the 2 equalizers. And I've named them high pass and low pass because this is what we're going to be doing with them. So for my loop, I actually want to isolate the kick from the rest of the loop. As you can hear, or in parametric EQ, you can actually see that the kick is around down here. So I think splitting up from 200 to 100 would be pretty fitting here. This is going to be a high pass. I'm going to turn up the Q and then put it to the right, oh, wrong one, to the right frequency. As you can hear, no kick anymore. That is where the low pass comes in. I'm gonna mute the top one, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but opposite. As you can hear, now we only have the kick. Playing these together should be just the same as just playing the signal normally. The point is that now I can actually put effects on just the kick and effects on the rest. And now, say hello to Corcher? I have no idea how to pronounce this. I'm gonna call it Corcher. Anyways, this plugin is free. If I do remember it, I will put it in the description. You guys can go ahead and download it. And now I'm gonna put these in between, just like that. So what does this plugin allow me to do? Well, it has this knob down here that can either sharpen or loosen or like flatten the signal. So I've muted the low end. So pay attention to what happens to the hats of the drums here. So see, this is pretty normal. Sharpening them. Hear how they just kind of poke through everything? It kind of hurts my ears. Because they are very sharp now. If I loosen them, flatten them. You see how they kind of fade into the background? I'm gonna get some of that, but not that much. You can see how it's kind of making it smoother, the red line here. For the kick, I'm gonna sharpen it a bit. I don't know why this display is so much behind. It's pretty annoying actually. But this kick is actually kind of, I think it's clipping. It sounds like it's clipping. There we go. A little limiter, and we're good. Anyways, let's get on to the last tip for today.
So my last and final tip for you guys is how to remove noise from a recording. For instance, if you have this guitar recording right here, you can hear there is noise in the background. So what you can do is to double click and right click on the waveform right here and edit in audio editor. Then you get this Edison plugin right here. And what you want to do is to find a place where the guitar is not playing or your sound is not playing. For instance, right here, we have a lot of noise going on. Then you want to go to this brush right here. Maybe your is looking more like this. You want to go to this brush right here and right click. And then it says noise profile acquired. Then you want to zoom out and select everything just like that, and then you want to left click it. Then this little window pops up and you can simply just press accept unless you want to kind of control the settings, but usually the settings are great just by themselves. And you can see all of the purple noise just disappeared. So now you can take this and drag it into your playlist and listen to it. All the noise is gone. And that is how you can remove noise by using Edison in FL Studio.
Well, anyways, peeps, that's gonna be it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much to LukiZ for participating in this video. If you haven't already, make sure to go to his channel and show him some love over there. He makes a lot of really great videos that I actually genuinely do enjoy watching. He's really good at explaining a lot of stuff in FL Studio. So if you enjoy my content, yeah, of course you'll enjoy his too. I'm gonna leave the video here. Make sure to watch LukiZ's video for more tips like you've just seen. Anyway, thanks for liking, subscribing, and watching. Stay lit, folks.